I'm going with the Yankees to win this series in 7 games. There's just too much magic in St. Louis this year. And the Cardinals win the World Series in 2022. Yes, another year of season predictions when everyone gathers round to enjoy the return of Major League Baseball and come at me with pitchforks in the comments. In this video, I give you my predictions for the 2023 Major League Baseball season. Oh, I really hate doing these.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
If you are new to the channel, think about subscribing down below. Hit the like button, the bell button, the share button. I don't care. Hit whatever button you want. And sponsoring today's video is your #1 source for all your sports betting needs, BetOnline, whether that's for MLB, NBA, UFC, and more. Use the code BELIEVE for a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. I'm going to start going division by division, and let's go ahead and start with the American League East. Coming in 5th place, I have the Baltimore Orioles. They were a fun team last year, but I do feel like they exceeded expectations just a little bit. I think they come back down to earth this year. Now, you got some fun young players to keep an eye on for this team. Adley Rutschman was the guy last year, a very good season. This year, we're going to have Gunnar Henderson, and we're going to have Grayson Rodriguez. I think they're going to be 2 favorites for Rookie of the Year. Gunnar Henderson, Grayson Rodriguez, I think they're going to have good rookie seasons. When I'm looking at this team as a whole, I think the lineup is okay. I think it's going to be right around middle of the pack in the major leagues this year, but I'm a little worried about this rotation. I like the additions of Kyle Gibson and Cole Irvin, but to me, those guys are, middle to back end of the rotation kind of guys. Grayson Rodriguez, I'm not going to count on this guy to, lead a rotation. He is a rookie after all. I think he's going to have some growing pains this year. I like the bullpen. I think there's a couple of good pieces here. Felix Bautista in the back. I just feel like the Orioles just aren't quite there yet. I think they're about another season or 2 away, so I have them coming in 5th place. Coming in 4th place, I have the Tampa Bay Rays. This might be a shocker to some people, and I've picked against the Rays before, and it has bitten me in the butt, but I'm just not too high on the Rays this year. I think they do have a good season, but I just don't see them making the playoffs this year. Looking at the offense, I do like their lineup. You got Wander Franco and Brandon Lowe hopefully back for full seasons this year. I think Randy Rosarina is even going to be a little bit better, but I do see some regression in some parts of the lineup. Yandy Diaz was an on-base machine last year. I wonder if that stays around the same this year. Paredes showed some power last year, but I do wonder, the low batting average, the low on base last year, can that, maybe come back to haunt him a little bit this coming year? But overall, I like the offense. I think it's going to be strong with this team. Now, when talking about the rotation and the bullpen, the rotation, I love McClanahan at the top. I think he's going to be a Cy Young contender. He keeps getting better and better every single year. However, I'm not too high on Jeffrey Springs and Drew Rasmussen. These guys had good seasons last year, but they had a career high in innings pitched. I just wonder if they're going to be able to keep doing the same as what they were doing last year. Eflin is basically replacing Kluber in the rotation. I like Eflin, but his health is a bit of a question mark, so I'm not quite sure what you're going to be able to get out of him for a full season. And then there's also Tyler Glasnow. He's starting the season on the IL with a strained oblique. He just got Tommy John not too long ago. I'm just not really sure about his durability for this season. I don't really know what you're going to get out of him. Bullpen, Pete Fairbanks is awesome when he's healthy. He did come back late last season. I just wonder about his health. Is he going to be able to have a full season? I like some other pieces in this bullpen. I just feel like the Rays have a good team. I just don't see a playoff team personally. And again, I know that's probably going to come back and bite me. But for the Rays, I have them coming in 4th place. Coming in 3rd place, I have my Boston Red Sox. Here come the Giraffe Nick Robbie comments now. I can see them all over the place, but hear me out. I've seen a lot of Red Sox teams over the years, and I see a pretty decent one here with the Red Sox in 2023. Starting with the lineup, sure, no Bogarts in this lineup, but they did add some other pieces that I think are going to help replenish this lineup. After the loss of Bogarts, Yoshida balled out in the World Baseball Classic. I'm really excited about him this year. Tristan Casas is going to be a Rookie of the Year contender, gets on base at an extremely healthy rate. Adding a power bat like an Adam Duvall, a solid player, and Justin Turner going to be good for the clubhouse as well. Verdugo, you're going to see hitting in the leadoff spot this year. I think that actually could go in his favor. I feel like with his energy and his ability to get the bat on the ball, I think Verdugo actually could be a pretty decent leadoff hitter. Now, overall, I don't think it's the best lineup, but I do think it is pretty solid. I think it could be a top 10 offense this year. The starting rotation, full of question marks. You got some injuries coming into the season, or not really injuries, but guys that are a little behind. Brian Bayo, Garrett Whitlock, James Paxton. Let's see what James Paxton does this year. But while there are question marks with this rotation, there's a lot of upside as well. Chris Sale, I do think will finally get back to having a full, good, healthy season. I don't know. I got a good feeling about it. Chris Sale, I think, is a contender for comeback player of the year. Cy Young, probably not, but I think he's going to get back to doing pretty well. Kluber, I think, will be a decent veteran presence in this rotation. And you got some young guys, like I mentioned, Brian Bayo. Brian Mata in the minor leagues, I think, could make an impact. And this bullpen is really improved. You got an actual closer this year. You got some other good pieces as well. Chris Martin. You got Joely Rodriguez, who is out right now, but he will be back. He's a solid lefty. Richard Blyer coming in to replace Matt Barnes. I think that's only going to help. Getting rid of Barnes, I think, is an addition by subtraction kind of a move. I just like the bullpen overall. I think it's definitely upgraded for this year. I just see a solid team with the Red Sox. I know I don't see a division-winning team, but I see a team that can absolutely win the third wild card spot. Coming in second place, I have the New York Yankees. This is a solid team all the way around. When you take a look at the lineup, it's not a whole lot different from last year, but I think they got to put Volpe in this lineup. I think he has to make the opening day roster, put some youth into this team, inject some energy into this team. I would love to see Peraza on this team as well. But overall, great looking lineup. I think Stanton actually has a pretty good season this coming year. Judge, I don't think he's going to put up the same kind of season that he did last year, but he's still going to be very good. Overall, I like this lineup. And the rotation, sure, they're having some problems right now with health, but you're eventually going to get Carlos Rodon back. You'll eventually get Luis Severino back. I think this is a good-looking rotation. Might not look great right now going into the season, but I think by the halfway point of the season, I think it's going to be pretty strong. Bullpen, it's actually not as strong as it has looked in the last few years, but I still think there's some really good arms here. Clay Holmes, Loaisiga in the back. Michael King is going to be healthy this year. This guy was awesome for them last year. I just see a good bullpen. I don't see an amazing bullpen by any means. And you do got Harrison Bader, who will come back eventually. Had a strained oblique, but this guy is going to give them some energy. Overall, I see a good team with the Yankees. I see a great team. I think they're going to win at least 95 games. I definitely think they will contend for the division, but for me right now, I'm going to go second place. And coming in first place, I have the Toronto Blue Jays. I really like the Toronto Blue Jays this year. This team last year had a lot of right-handed bats, but they did a great job in the offseason adding some lefties, some gritty type players. Dalton Varsho, Brandon Belt, Kevin Kiermaier, I think are going to be great additions for this lineup. I think Vlad Jr., a bit of a down season last year compared to what he did the year prior. I think his numbers will come back up a little bit here. I love this lineup. Overall, I think it's very dangerous. The rotation, what I like about the rotation is you got Manoah and Gausman at the top, but you also have depth in this rotation as well. Chris Bassett, a great addition in the offseason. I think Barrios ends up having a bounce-back season this year. Kikuchi, he's been looking pretty good in the spring. I really like this rotation as a whole. And you got Ricky Tiedemann in the minor leagues as well, who can come up and make an impact this year at some point possibly. Overall, I love the rotation. Bullpen, I think it's an improved bullpen. Romano is one of the better closers in the game. Eric Swanson you got in the Teoscar Hernandez trade. I think that's a good addition. I feel like they could use another reliever or two. They could definitely address that by the trade deadline. And don't forget about a guy like Hyun-Jin Ryu. He could come back later in the season after getting Tommy John. I think he can have an impact as well, create even more depth of the rotation. Maybe you could even put Kikuchi in the bullpen. He was pretty decent in the bullpen last year. So overall, I think the Blue Jays, they're very strong in the lineup. They just have good and deep starting pitching as well. And the bullpen has improved from last year. I see them winning this division. Moving over to the AL Central, in fifth place, I have the Kansas City Royals. Hey, there's not a whole lot going on with the Royals. They could be a fun team this year, but I'm more looking at the youth on this team. Bobby Witt Jr., always going to have my eyes on him. Vinny Pasquantino, man, had a really good season last year. In a little less than half a season, I think he could keep getting even better. You got some other guys here, MJ Melendez, Michael Massey as well. I think this lineup, I'm more looking at the fun young guys in this lineup, but the pitching, this is where it just gets a little cold for me. Greinke going to be back this year, but I'm looking at a rotation here with Jordan Lyles, Keller. I think Singer could be pretty decent this year, and then you added Brian Yarbrough in the offseason. I just don't see a whole lot with the starting pitching. I think it's pretty weak overall. A couple of decent pieces in the bullpen here. Scott Barlow, I think, could be a trade deadline candidate, and if Chapman gets himself back on track, he could absolutely be a trade deadline candidate as well. But overall, I just don't see a whole lot with the Kansas City Royals. Another guy to keep an eye on, maybe Drew Waters. He couldn't really get it going in Atlanta. Had some moments last year with the Royals, so let's see what kind of a year he can have. But overall, I think Kansas City, they come in 5th place. Coming in 4th place, I have the Detroit Tigers. A bummer of a season last year. A couple of years ago, they were looking pretty promising, but last year they really flamed out. This year, though, I think Spencer Torkelson, he had a bust of a rookie season, but I do think he can break out this year. This guy was the #1 pick in 2020. Shows really good power numbers, and advanced numbers still look pretty good for him. I think he's going to have himself a good season. Riley Green, one of the top young players in the game. I think he's going to be really good. Javier Baez, I think, will do a bit better this year than he did last year. Austin Meadows, let's see a full healthy season. Let's see what he can do. Overall, I think the lineup has a few fun pieces, but not amazing by any means. The rotation, I'm actually a little higher on this rotation than probably other people. Eduardo Rodriguez, I always love. Erod, he went a little MIA last year at one point, but a full season from him, I think is going to be good for this rotation. You brought back Boyd. Spencer Turnbull coming back this year after getting Tommy John. I think this rotation is actually pretty decent, but the bullpen is really thin to me. I'm just not really seeing a whole lot with this bullpen. I think the Tigers will be better this year, but I only see a 4th place finish. Coming in 3rd place, I have the Cleveland Guardians. This one might be another shocker to a lot of people. They surprised a lot of people last year, and I was one of the people that called it. I saw a good season out of the Cleveland Guardians last year. I wasn't sure if they're going to be able to make the playoffs or not, but they ended up winning the division last year, and man, they were really good. But this year, though, I do still see a good season from the Cleveland Guardians. I just wonder how good they will be. I did like the additions of Josh Bell and Mike Zunino, but I do see some regression with Andres Jimenez. He had a really good season last year, but the advanced metrics with his hitting just weren't so good. So I definitely see him coming back down to earth a little bit. I do like this lineup overall. Jose Ramirez, one of my favorite players in the game. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the game. I still can't believe I'm saying that. But overall, I do like this lineup. Where I am a little hesitant with this team is the starting pitching. They were able to get by last year. Bieber with a good season, McKenzie with a good season. You know, when I'm looking at Savali, Kwangshul, and Plesac, I don't know, just over a full season, it doesn't inspire me. They got it done last year, but can they do it again? Bullpen still looks really solid. Clase, one of the best closers in the game. I'm not seeing a bad team with Cleveland this year. I think they're going to be right there contending. I just wonder how far they're going to be able to get. So for me, right now, I see them coming in 3rd place. Coming in 2nd place, I have the Minnesota Twins. I really like the way this Twins team is looking. With the Twins, you added a few pieces in the offseason. Joey Gallo was probably the biggest name. Let's see if he can bounce back without the shift. Let's see if he can put his money where his mouth is. Can he perform without the shift? I think he can. Christian Vasquez, I'll always love Christian Vasquez. He's going to bring more intangibles of anything. He's going to lead the pitching staff, good defense as well. Carlos Correa, he's in here for the long run. I'm excited to see what he can do for the Twins in his career with them. Byron Buxton, I'm still looking for a full, healthy season out of him. Man, if he can put together 130, 140, maybe 150 games, this guy could be an MVP, man. Kepler, kind of like Gallo, I think with the shift gone, I think he is going to see some improvements this year. Overall, I like this Twins lineup. I think it's really solid. For the rotation, you added Pablo Lopez in the offseason with the trade with the Marlins, sending Luis Arraez, so that's a bat that they are going to be missing, but I think they're going to be fine without that bat. Pablo Lopez, I think this is exactly kind of a guy that they need at the top of the rotation. Now, it's not my favorite rotation in the game, but you got solid names 1 through 5. Maeda's going to come back after Tommy John. It's a solid 1 through 5. I see a lot of 2s, 3s, and 4s in this rotation, but I think over a full season, I think the Twins are going to have success with this rotation. And I love in the back end, you got Duran and Lopez at the back. I love that. I do wonder about the middle relief here. You got a few guys that could get the job done. I wonder about the bullpen as a whole, but I love the back end of it. I think the Twins are going to be a really good team this year, going to be right there contending. I have them coming in 2nd place in the Central. And winning the AL Central, I have the Chicago White Sox. That could be a surprise for a lot of people, but I still really like this White Sox team. There's still a lot of talent here. And last year, yeah, they came up short, But I think replacing Tony La Russa with Pedro Grifol is going to be a great move. I think Grifol, he's more analytics based. I think he's going to be more up with the times than Tony La Russa was. I think he's just going to be a better manager overall. I think he's going to create a more cohesive clubhouse here. I just think he's the better guy for the job than La Russa was. So that already is a great start for me. Sure, you lost Jose Abreu, but you did replace him with Andrew Benintendi. Sure, you're going to lose some power there, but Andrew Benintendi, that's going to be a bat that you're going to love having in your lineup. I still think Luis Robert, he has not hit his full potential yet. I still see a superstar of a player here. Yoel Moncada, he dealt with injuries last year. I think he's going to bounce back. He's going to have himself a good season. Andrew Vaughn, I think, is going to keep getting better. Oscar Colas is a name to keep an eye out for. He's been having a good spring. Look out for him. I think he could be a fun player. I see a really good lineup here, especially with Tim Anderson at the top. He had some health problems last year, but Tim Anderson, one of the better players in the game. This is a great looking lineup. I mean, how can I not mention Eloy Jimenez? This is a power bat, had some injuries last year. I think this lineup is really good overall. And the rotation, I mean, look at the rotation. Listen, I love Dylan Cease, man. This guy strikes out guys left and right. Lance Lynn, one of the more solid pitchers in the game. I think Lucas Giolito will have a bit of a better season last year. Took a bit of a step back last year. Kopech, still a young electric arm. Clevinger, more of a back-end guy at this point, but I think that's fine for the number 5 or 4 spot. And the bullpen still looks really good. You know, sure, Liam Hendricks, you know, a bit of a scare there with the cancer, and I'm wishing him all the best. I think he's going to be back eventually. He'll be great. But you got Kendall Graveman as your closer still. I think this is awesome. You got guys like Aaron Bummer. I'll always love me some Joe Kelly Fight Club. Overall, I think a really decent bullpen. I see a good team here with the White Sox. You know, sure, still lacking a little bit in the minors, but I see a talented team, and I think a team that will have enough to win this division. And moving over to the American League West, coming in 5th place, I have the Oakland A's. I mean, what else is there to say? There's not really a whole lot here. You got a couple of younger players to keep an eye out for. One guy I will keep an eye out for is Shintaro Fujinami. I think he could be a pretty decent guy for them. Kyle Muller, opening day starter. This is the guy you got back in the Sean Murphy trade. I think Kyle Muller was a solid addition for them. You got another guy here like a Ken Waldichuk. You know, some young guys that I'll keep an eye on. But overall, you know, I'm more just paying attention to the youth right now. Like I mentioned, a couple of pictures there. Shane Langeliers. Hey, this is a guy that you also got back in the Sean Murphy trade. I'll be keeping an eye on him this year. But overall, the Oakland A's, they're in rebuild mode, 5th place. Coming in 4th place, I have the Texas Rangers. Man, they have had a couple of fun off seasons in the last couple of years. Taking a look at the offense, really good looking offense. I think Corey Seager is going to have himself a tremendous year this year. I think he'll be an MVP candidate. I think taking away the shift is really going to help him. Marcus Semien continues to be one of the more solid players in the game. Adolis Garcia, he's fun to watch. Nate Lowe, underrated player last year, had some good numbers. You got someone like a Josh Young player that's going to be coming in, playing third base for the Rangers now. I think this is a really good looking lineup for the Rangers, and the rotation, adding Jacob deGrom this past offseason, the best pitcher on the planet when he's healthy. Nathan Eovaldi had some health problems last year, but he is as solid as they come when he is healthy. Also adding Andrew Heaney. He showed some good stuff with the Dodgers last year, but health is a bit of a question mark with me. I think Martin Perez takes a bit of a step back this coming year. He showed ace potential last year. I don't think he's a 1. I think he's more of a 3 or a 4 in a rotation at this point. Overall, there is a lot of upside with this rotation. I just need to see how the durability is going to be. And the bullpen, you know, sure, you got a couple of guys here, but overall, it looks a little thin to me. They didn't finish very well when it came to relief pitching last year. I think the Rangers, they're definitely going to be a better team. They're going to be a team that you're not going to want to mess around with. But I still feel like they're not quite there. I have them coming in 4th place. Coming in 3rd place, I have the LA Angels. I think the Angels are going to be a good team this year. I just wonder, are they going to be good enough to make the playoffs? Let's start with the lineup. Obviously, Trout, Ohtani, 2 of the best players in the entire galaxy. Those 2 are amazing. You're going to get Anthony Rendon back. I see a good season from Rendon. Dealt with some wrist issues last year. Ended up getting his season cut short due to wrist surgery. I think Anthony Rendon, though, he's going to get back to being a good player. He's having a good spring. You added some couple of guys in the offseason as well. Hunter Renfroe, Brandon Drury. You also added Gio Urshela, Brett Phillips. I think this lineup is actually really good. It looks better than it did last year. I'm excited about this lineup. I think it definitely could be a top 10 offense this year. The starting pitching, obviously Ohtani, he's great. But when I'm looking at these other 4 guys, Sandoval, Anderson, Detmers, and Suarez, I think there's upside there. I think Sandoval continues to be one of the more underrated guys in the game. Tyler Anderson, I wonder if he'll be able to keep doing what he was doing with the Dodgers. But this guy's a gamer. He's a bulldog. He goes out there and just pitches. I think Detmers, He's not even 24 years old yet. I think he's going to keep getting better and better. Suarez, he showed a lot of potential last year. I think there's a lot of upside with this rotation. The bullpen is a little thin to me. I did like the addition of Matt Moore. Estevez, I think, is a bit of a question mark there. And the bullpen scares me just a smidge. I do think this Angels team has the potential to get a wild card spot. They are a playoff team if they're healthy and they're just playing just good baseball every day. There's a lot of talent on this team besides Trout and Ohtani. I think they're capable of winning a wild card, but for now, I'm going to have them finishing third in this division. Coming in second place, I have the Seattle Mariners making the playoffs for the first time in forever last year. That was fun to see, but a pretty decent offseason. They upgraded their team. Obviously, J-Rod, I think, is going to keep being J-Rod, man. I don't see any sophomore slumps with him. I think he's going to have himself a great season. But when you're taking a look at some offseason additions, Colton Wong, Teoscar Hernandez Wong, I think he's going to be a good bat in this lineup. He's not going to be amazing by any means, but I think he's going to be a solid bat, and he's going to bring a good glove as well. Teoscar Hernandez, he's going to bring you a little power in this lineup. Overall, I like the lineup top to bottom. I'm a big Ty France fan. I think Jared Kelenic, he could finally break out this year. Let's see what kind of a year he has. This is basically his last chance, in my opinion. Overall, lineup is looking solid. Starting pitching, love this starting pitching. Luis Castillo, I'm a big Luis Castillo fan, man. Really like what he brings to the table. Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, two young arms in this rotation. Robbie Ray was your addition last offseason. Overall, this is a really good-looking rotation, if you ask me. And then for the bullpen, still just a good-looking bullpen overall. Love Sewald at the back. Andres Munoz, keep an eye out for him this year. I think he could have a breakout year. Matt Brash, I think he finally just gets comfortable in this bullpen role. I think he's going to be awesome in this bullpen. I love this Mariners team. I definitely think they could do some damage this year. Is it enough to beat the Astros in this division? I'm not quite sure about that, but I'll go with the Mariners at second place for right now. And coming in first place, I have the Houston Astros, the defending World Series champions. This team just keeps winning every single year. Everyone always wants to pick against the Astros. I always want to pick against the Astros, but I'm not going to make that mistake this time. I think I picked the Mariners to win the division last year. I'm not doing that this year. The Astros, until they lose, I'm not picking against them. You added Jose Abreu this offseason. I think that's a really good bat to add. And that right-handed power bat at Minute Maid Park with the short left field, I think that's going to be great. Love me some Kyle Tucker. I think he's going to be, I think he'll be a borderline MVP candidate this year. I think he's really good. I think a lot of people sleep on him. Jeremy Pena, hey, this guy was the star of the show in the playoffs last year. You know, J-Rod won the Rookie of the Year last year, but Jeremy Pena ended up being the more winning rookie last year. Overall, really like how this lineup looks. Bregman as well. Love that. Yordan Alvarez, how could I forget him? This guy's just going to mash. To me, he's like the common day David Ortiz, man. Yordan Alvarez is just an absolute beast. Love him. Rotation, sure, you're losing Justin Verlander, but I think this rotation is still going to be really solid. Framber Valdez is your new ace. Christian Javier, I think, has a lot of potential. Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy rounding it out. And then Hunter Brown is essentially taking over for Justin, or not really taking over for Justin Verlander, but he's filling that spot at the back end. Hey, young, good arm, has had a lot of success in the minor leagues. One of their top prospect, Hunter Brown. I definitely could see some Rookie of the Year potential with him. Like the rotation as a whole, I think it's really solid. But the bullpen is where I love this team. Presley, Montero, Abreu, Neris, Stanek. This is a really good bullpen, man. I think this bullpen could be number one this year. Love this Astros team. I think they're going to continue to be a force in the major leagues this year. I think they win the division yet again. Let's shift over to the National League and go to the NL West. Coming in fifth place, I have the Colorado Rockies. There's just not really a whole lot with this team. I think the offense could be pretty fun. Chris Bryant, CJ Cron. You got a couple other young guys. I'm going to be looking out for Eleuteris Monturo. He came over in the Nolan Arenado trade. I'm looking to see if he can break out this year. Other than that, you also added Jerickson Profar. That went under the radar. That was a signing not too long ago. Overall, I think the lineup could be pretty good. I don't think it's going to be anything amazing by any means. The rotation, Herman Marquez, Kyle Freeland, he was just with Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. I'm just not really seeing a whole lot with the rotation. Daniel Bard, he actually had a pretty rough time in the World Baseball Classic. Hopefully, he's going to be okay for this season. You got Brad Hand. You added him recently. Pierce Johnson was an addition from this offseason. I'm just not really seeing a ton with this team. Hey, Connor Siebold, Red Sox legend. What can I say? But yeah, Colorado, not seeing a whole lot. I'm going 5th place. Coming in 4th place, I have the San Francisco Giants. They were hoping Aaron Judge was going to lead them to the promised lands. Instead, they got Arson Judge. But this team, yeah, it's, I think, a good team. I don't think it's a bad team by any means. I'm excited to see what Michael Conforto can do, looking to see what kind of a season he can have after not playing last year. You got some other guys. You got Brandon Crawford, Jock Peterson. I think that's pretty fun. Looking to see if Joey Bart can put it together this year. But I'm not seeing an amazing lineup by any means. I do like the starting pitching. Always love Logan Webb. I think Alex Cobb, he's going to be pretty solid again. Ross Stripling, I think, was a pretty good under-the-radar move for them. Sean Manaea, I think, could have a bounce-back season with the Giants. I do like this rotation. I think it's pretty solid. Bullpen, you got a couple of pretty good arms at the bat. Camille Duvall, one of the best arms in the game. Taylor Rogers, I think, was a solid addition. Got Tyler Rogers in here, too. But overall, I think this bullpen is pretty okay. I don't think it's amazing by any means. I think it's better at the back end. Rotation is looking pretty solid. JD Davis is another guy. He was hitting pretty well with the Giants last year after he came over to them. But I think the Giants are an okay team. I don't think they're going to be amazing by any means. I have them coming in 4th place. Coming in 3rd place, I have the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are my surprise team for this year. Last year, it was the Cleveland Guardians, and I think the Diamondbacks absolutely can make the playoffs this year. I like this lineup. Got some fun, young players in it. Corbin Carroll, Alec Thomas, Gabriel Moreno. You got in the Dalton Varsho trade. Love that. I think this is a good 3 guys, like your core that you can go with for the next, 5 to 10 years. Ketel Marte, I think, has a good season this year. He was looking pretty good in the World Baseball Classic. Don't forget about that. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., you also got in the Varsho trade. I think it's a good bat. Sure, is he going to replace the defense of Dalton Varsho? No, but I think the bat is going to be just fine. I like a lot about this lineup, including Christian Walker, that power in there. They also added Evan Longoria, a guy with, a lot of experience, a veteran guy. I think Longoria, I think he's going to be a solid player for them. I also got Kyle Lewis. Let's see what he can do. Couldn't really find his way with the Mariners after getting Rookie of the Year in 2020. Let's see what he can do here with the Diamondbacks. Love Zach Gallen at the top of the rotation. Zach Gallen's one of my favorite pitchers in the game right now. Merrill Kelly, hey, just started the final against Team Japan, but he had a good season last year. Bumgarner, he is what he is at this point. I don't really know what he's going to give you besides just innings, really. But overall, I think the rotation could be better. But I do like Zach Gallen at the top. I think Kelly is more of a 3 at this point. I think they are lacking another guy in this rotation. But I think Gallen, this guy, I think is going to keep getting better and better. Bullpen is a bit of a question mark, but I do like Ginkel and the addition of Chafin as well. Mantiply had a good season last year. Bullpen, I think, is a little wait and see at this point. But when you're talking about some pitching here, some young guys, Ryan Nelson, Dre Jameson, they looked really good last year in a small sample size. I think they're going to bring some good things to this team this year. I like this team. A lot of youth. You got some veterans here. You got some bounce back potential for this coming year with a couple of guys. I like the way this team is looking. I have them in 3rd place, and I do have them winning a wild card. Coming in 2nd place, I have the San Diego Padres. Another offseason of making moves to the Padres, adding Xander Bogaerts, your new shortstop. I still cry myself to sleep every single night. I digress, but Xander Bogaerts, I think, is a good addition for this team. He's going to give you a good bat. Not a whole lot of power, I think. His power was down a little bit at Fenway Park. I wonder about him and his power at Petco Park, but still a good bat at the top of the lineup. He's going to give you some solid defense at shortstop as well, and just a winning player, winning a couple of World Series in his career. I think Bogaerts is a great addition. Juan Soto, I think, could be an MVP guy this year. I think he's going to explode this year. A bit of a down season in 22, but I think Soto, I think his numbers are going to skyrocket back up this year. Machado, he was an MVP player last year. I think you're going to see a little regression with him, but overall, I still think he's going to be really good. Love Cronenworth. Matt Carpenter, a solid lefty bat to add. He looked like Barry Bonds for the Yankees at one point last year before getting hurt. Kim Grisham, good defense. Really liking this lineup overall with the San Diego Padres and the rotation. Joe Musgrove is going to be on the IL to start things off, but I really like Blake Snell. Looked good in the second half last year. Yu Darvish is Yu Darvish. I think Snell, Darvish, Musgrove, still a solid 1, 2, 3. Added Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, adding some depth to this rotation. I think is going to be really good. Look out for Jay Groom. He was looking pretty good last year, and then before with the Red Sox while he was still there. He was looking pretty decent with them. A good young arm to keep an eye on for this year. Overall, I think a deep rotation that's going to help carry you through the regular season. A really good back end of the bullpen. Hader continues to be one of the best closers in the game. You do have Robert Suarez on the IL to start things off, but I still think this guy is one of the better bullpen arms in the game. Overall, I really love the Padres this year. I think they're going to be a really good team. Is it going to be enough to win the division? I personally don't think so. I have them coming in second place. And winning the division, I have the LA Dodgers. What else is there to say? They win division after division after division, and I think the Dodgers are going to continue to do that this year. Sure, no Trey Turner in this lineup, but you still got Betts and Freeman at the top. You added JD Martinez. I think that's a solid bat to add. Look out for Miguel Vargas this year. This is a young player that can make a lot of contact. I think he's going to be really good. You got Miguel Rojas. That's your new shortstop, but that's a really good glove, so the defense is going to be awesome. Max Muncy, he's going to give you a lot of power. Will Smith, I still think is more of an underrated player in today's game. You got Trace Thompson in center field right now, but look out for James Outman. I think he could be a Rookie of the Year candidate this year. I think he's going to bust out and have himself a really good year. Showed, 4 games last year in the majors, but he hit a couple of doubles, a homer. I think he's an exciting young player to keep an eye out for. Rotation, it's not looking as deep as it has in the last few years, but I still really like the way it looks. Urias, hey, what else is there to say about Urias? This guy continues to be really good year after year. Dustin May came back last year after Tommy John. Hey, an electric young arm. Let's see what kind of a season he can put together. The sky's the limit for this kid. Hey, Kershaw, still Clayton Kershaw. Hey, he was really good last year. The one thing with him, injuries, how durable is he going to be? I still think you can bet on him to give you 20 starts. Syndergaard, back-end guy, at this point, whatever. That's going to give you some innings. And, hey, Pepio, a young guy. The Dodgers have some young arms in the farm that are going to be able to step in and make starts. So, sure, it might not look very deep here, but you got guys in the organization that can step in. Don't forget about Bobby Miller. I'm wondering if we're going to see him this year. I like the Dodgers starting pitching. Bullpen still looking really good. Phillips, Vesia, Gratterall. I love Gratterall. I wonder if he is finally going to be able to take that closer role. I love the arm with him. Walker Buehler, could we see him later on in the season? I'm not quite sure. We'll just have to wait and see on that. I think there's a good chance you just might not see him at all. But could he help out in the playoffs? Maybe. Overall, this Dodgers team, and just the organization itself, which right now on Baseball America ranks 3rd in the farm system rankings. The Dodgers are just a class organization, and I think yet again they find a way to win this division. Moving over to the NL Central, in 5th place, I have the Cincinnati Reds. Not a whole lot with the Reds right now. They are in rebuild mode, but I am looking at a couple of players here. Jonathan India, not a great season last year after winning Rookie of the Year in 21, so I'm looking for a bounce-back year out of him. You got someone like a Tyler Stevenson, a young, good bat, looking to see what he can do this year. In the rotation, I got my eyes on Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. These two guys are going to be awesome in the future. Really excited to see what they can do this year. And, hey, Alexis Diaz right now, the big story with the Mets losing Edwin Diaz. Could the Reds maybe trade for Alexis Diaz? I don't know, but not a whole lot here with the Reds. I see them still obviously in rebuild mode, coming in 5th place. Coming in 4th place, I have the Pittsburgh Pirates. I could see a lot of people picking the Pirates to finish last, but hey, you know what? This is a pretty fun team if you ask me. Bringing back Andrew McCutchen, bringing in some veteran guys like Carlos Santana, Ji-Man Choi. Still got some young guys in here like Oneil Cruz, Brian Hayes, Jack Sawinski. Hey, not a bad, maybe not an amazing lineup by any means, but still a very fun lineup, and obviously Brian Reynolds. Will he stay with the Pirates this year? Will they get an extension done? We'll just have to wait and see. In the rotation, Mitch Keller, he was pretty decent last year. Keep an eye out for him. Hey, Rich Hill. Hey, Rich Hill's an absolute legend. Bringing him in, you're obviously going to win the World Series. Bringing in Rich Hill. Roansy Contreras, he showed some promise last year. JT Brubaker, hey, look at see what he can do this year. Not awful by any means, but there's some things to keep an eye out for. You still got Bednar as your closer. Could he end up being a trade candidate this year? We'll just have to wait and see. But I think the Pirates, hey, pretty fun team if you ask me. I got them in 4th place. Coming in 3rd, I have the Chicago Cubs. I think the Cubs could actually get a 2nd place finish. I'll stay with 3rd for now because this Cubs team, I think, is looking pretty decent. You added Dansby Swanson. Is he going to have the same kind of a year that he did last year? We'll just have to wait and see. But I think Dansby Swanson, one of the more fun shortstops in the game. Nico Horner, a fun season last year. Let's see what he can do this coming year. You've added a couple other guys here. Cody Bellinger, Trey Mancini. You added Eric Hosmer as well. So I think some pretty fun additions there. I think it's a decent decent lineup. I think it has more upside than people might think. Taking a look at the rotation, you're still lacking really an ace in this rotation. Stroman and Tyone, these are two guys. These are like 2s, 3s in a rotation for me. So I still think they're lacking something here. But you got some young guys like Justin Steele, Hayden Wesneski. Look out for him, man. I think he's going to have himself a good year. Came over in the Scott Efros trade with the Yankees last year. I think the Yankees are really going to regret giving him up. And you got a couple of pieces in the bullpen here. Michael Fulmer, now going to be one of your guys at the back end. I think it's a decent Cubs team. I think they have a shot at getting second place in this division. I'll go third for now. Coming in second place, I have the Milwaukee Brewers. I think the Brewers are going to be a good team. I just wonder if they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs this year, but a good team nonetheless, a good lineup. Love the addition of William Contreras in the offseason. They somehow got involved in the Sean Murphy trade and got a birthday gift in William Contreras. Bringing in Jesse Winker. Bad season with the Mariners last year, but we know what Jesse Winker can do. Can they get him turned around? No shift this year. Let's see if that can help him out as well. Solid players like Tellez and Adames. Yelich is still Yelich. Not MVP caliber Yelich anymore, but still, he's Christian Yelich. Garrett Mitchell, I think has breakout potential all over him. This guy, I think, has star written all over him. I'm really excited to see what he can do this year. When you think of the Brewers, you think of pitching. Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff at the top. Corbin Burns, one of the best pitchers in the game. Having a chip on his shoulder this year, I wonder how far that can go for him. Having a bit of drama with the Brewers over the arbitration case this past offseason. Let's see what he does after getting that kind of fuel in his tank. But Corbin Burns still absolutely amazing. Woodruff, always love Woodruff. You added Wade Miley in the offseason. This is going to be a guy, give you some innings. I think that's fine. I think the Brewers rotation is fine. And looking at the bullpen, I love Devin Williams, one of the best closers in the game, but I'm looking at the rest of the bullpen and it feels like it's lacking just a little bit. I wonder if they're going to have an easy time getting the ball to Devin Williams. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But overall, I like the Brewers. I think they're a good team. I think they're going to be in contention for a wild card. Will they be able to get it done? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But I have the Brewers finishing in second place in this division. And winning the NL Central yet again, I have the St. Louis Cardinals. I was a big believer in this team last year. I picked this team to win the World Series, and they fell short. But this team still looks really good, if you ask me. And you added Wilson Contreras to an already good lineup in the offseason. That is absolutely fantastic. And a lineup that was really good last year, even with a down year from Tyler O'Neill. I expect him to bounce back this year. Obviously, Goldschmidt, Arenado in the middle, Donovan Newbar at the top. Look out for Jordan Walker this year. A lot of people high on him to win maybe Rookie of the Year. He's been looking great in spring. His bat, I think, is ready for the major leagues. This lineup, I love Tommy Edman as well. I love the versatility of him. But this lineup, I love the way this lineup looks. Pitching, it always feels like the Cardinals are just really lacking an ace, but good, solid starting pitching all the way through. Adam Wainwright will start the year on the IL, but obviously, even without him, still looking pretty solid. Michaelis Flaherty, let's see if he can have a full season of health. Flaherty, at one point, had ace potential. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field, but I always love Miles Michaelis. Jordan Montgomery, he was solid for you down the stretch after trading for him. Matz, I'm looking for a more healthy year out of Steven Matz. Love the rotation. I think it's really solid. And at the back end, you got Ryan Helsley and Gallegos, Palante as well. Hicks, big arm. Let's see if he can stay more healthy. Love this team. I love the Cardinals team. I definitely think they're going to win this division, and they're going to be a solid team yet again. And last but not least, the National League East. Coming in fifth place, I have the Washington Nationals. They're in complete rebuild mode right now. I don't see a whole lot out of them, but I'm going to be looking at the young guys, CJ Abrams, Kyber Ruiz. Those are fun guys. Hey, Joey Meneses had a fun season last year. I'm looking to see what he can do this year. But lineup, not really a whole lot to look for here. Just a couple of young guys. Some pitching. Can Patrick Corbin get himself together? Oh, my goodness. But Josiah Gray, Mackenzie Gore, Cade Cavalli, I was excited about this year, but it's looking like he's going to miss quite some time. But we'll keep my eyes on Josiah Gray and Gore. Definitely think those guys have a ton of potential. You got maybe some bullpen arms that maybe you could see in the mix for a trade deadline spot or for a trade deadline deal. But not really a whole lot with the bullpen. Hey, Thad Ward, former Red Sox minor league legend. Hey, watch out for Thad Ward. He just made the roster. But for the Nationals, 5th place. Coming in 4th place, I have the Miami Marlins. I think this team could be pretty fun this year. Taking a look at the lineup, Luis Arraez was your big addition in the offseason, sending Pablo Lopez over to the Twins. I think this is a bat they need. This is a bat they wanted, a bat that can make a ton of contact. I think it's going to be good for you. MLB The Show cover boy Jazz Chisholm had some injuries last year, but I think a full season, this guy could be one of the top players in the game. You got some other bats. Gene Segura was another addition for you. I like that move. Jorge Soler, can he, maybe do a little better this year when it comes to the slash line? Still hit for some power last year, but I want a better season out of Jorge Soler. Overall, I think it's an okay lineup. I don't think it's amazing by any means, but when I'm looking at the rotation, I love the rotation. Sandy Alcantara, Cy Young last year. Edward Cabrera has breakout potential all over him. Jesus Luzardo, I still think is finding his way to fully get back to what he was doing with the Oakland A's, but he looked a lot better last year. Trevor Rogers looking for a bounce back year, but the sky's the limit with him. And Johnny Cueto, another offseason addition. Hey, it never hurts to add someone like Johnny Cueto for your rotation. And for the bullpen, you added a couple of guys to this bullpen. Matt Barnes, Red Sox legend, what can I say? And then you added AJ Puck as well. I think it was a pretty under-the-radar move. Former higher prospect with the Oakland A's. Let's see what he can do for the Marlins here. I think this Marlins team, is pretty fun. I think this team could make some noise this year. Could they be a surprise team? I don't know about that. But I think for the Marlins, 4th place for now. Coming in 3rd place, I have the National League champions from last year, the Philadelphia Phillies. Man, they got hot at the right time, came within 2 wins of a World Series, falling short to the Houston Astros, but I still like this Phillies team. Huge addition with Trey Turner. That's going to be massive, especially with not having Harper early on in the season. I think that's going to be a huge addition for them. He brings you everything. Hits for average, hits for power, has speed, good in the field. Love me some Trey Turner. Kyle Schwarber, still going to bring you a ton of power. JT Realmuto, one of the best catchers in the game. You did lose Rhys Hoskins. That a pretty big loss right there, losing some power. Let's see if they can fill that void with some of these other guys like a Derek Hall. Nick Castellanos looking for a bounce back year. Did not have a good year last year, but he's been working with the hitting coach this offseason. Let's see if that translates to more success that he had a couple of years ago with the Reds. Alec Boehm, I think Alec Boehm still has a ton more room to grow. I'm looking for more power out of Alec Boehm this year, like Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, a couple of younger players. Rotation, Nola Wheeler, one of the best 1-2 punches in the game. We saw it on display in the playoffs last year. You added Taijuan Walker. I think that's fine for the middle of the rotation. You do have some injuries when you're taking a look at the pitching. Ranger Suarez, forearm tightness. Let's see if that doesn't become a thing for them. He's been pretty good for them over the last couple of years. Bailey Falter, I think a decent young arm for this rotation. Bullpen, you added a lot of pieces for this bullpen. Kimbrel, Soto, Strom, I think those are pretty decent additions. Let's see how it shakes up, who ends up being the closer. Just have to wait and see. The Phillies, if this Phillies team makes the playoffs, they can make some noise, obviously. This is a team that is built for the playoffs. I do wonder about the depth of this team. I wonder about them in the regular season. You're already starting to see some injuries. Bryce Harper will be back eventually. I just do worry about the durability of this team. But if this team does make the playoffs, they can definitely make some noise. But for now, I have them coming in 3rd in this division. Coming in 2nd place, I have the Atlanta Braves. I could see a lot of people picking the Braves to win this division, but for me, I do have the Mets winning this division just slightly. It's going to be very similar to last year, a dogfight all the way until the end. I mean, these 2 teams finished with the same record last year. I think the Mets this year will finish just ahead of the Atlanta Braves. I still like this Braves team. This lineup is absolutely ridiculous. Ronald Acuna Jr., this guy came back from knee surgery last year. Didn't quite look like himself. I think he's going to have a good year this coming year. Olsen, he's going to keep giving you power. Austin Riley. I feel like Austin Riley is kind of underrated, if that makes any sense. I feel like you don't hear his name a lot, but he produces just great numbers. Ozuna, I'm looking for more out of Ozuna this year. Michael Harris II, will he be able to continue the success that he had last year en route to a Rookie of the Year? Will he go through some sophomore slumps? We'll just have to wait and see, but this guy's an electric player. Ozzie Albies missed some time last year, but him returning to the lineup, that's only going to help. Sean Murphy, love Sean Murphy. Big addition for the Braves this past offseason. One of the best catchers in the game. Great addition. Eddie Rosario, he had some problems last year. He had to get surgery on his eye. but I think Eddie Rosario could get back to being more of a solid player this coming year. Love the lineup overall. When it comes to the rotation, I think the rotation is good. Fried, Strider, Morton. You do have, some guys on the IL. Soroka, will he ever make it back to the major leagues? I really want this guy to. I think Kyle Wright had a good year last year too. But with the Braves, it is a little short right now, but I do like the Braves starting pitching overall. And this bullpen is very deep. You do have Raisel Iglesias on the IL to start the year with some shoulder inflammation, but he's going to get back eventually. This bullpen is very deep. You still have AJ Minter, one of the better relievers in the game. He's going to serve as your closer for a little bit. Love Jimenez, McHugh, Kirby Yates. Let's see if this guy can get back to 2019 Kirby Yates, man. But really do like this bullpen. Nick Anderson could be an under the radar guy for you this coming year. Look out for him. I really like this Braves team overall. I'm just going to transition right here to the New York Mets. I think this Mets team, man, this is a really good-looking team. What an offseason they had. Even not adding Carlos Correa, this team still had a ridiculous offseason. If they added Correa, that would have been one of the best offseasons of all time. Probably the best offseason of all time. But love the lineup. You brought back Nimmo. You needed to bring him back. If you lost him, you were in trouble. But still like this lineup. It feels like they could use another bat. Look out for Brett Beatty. Didn't make the opening day roster. I was a little disappointed about that. I feel like he should have been on the opening day roster. I don't know. Maybe they want him to just get some at-bats in the minor leagues, get a rhythm going. I don't know. To me, he was having a good spring. I think he should have made the opening day roster. But it feels like they're a bat short. Will they end up getting someone? Vogelbach has not had a good spring. Will they end up, using him more off the bench as a bat, a left-handed bat, really? I think they make another move for a bat at some point this offseason. But speaking of moves, I feel like they are going to have to make a move in the bullpen. I think everyone agrees about that. Losing Edwin Diaz in the World Baseball Classic, heartbreaker, best closer in the game. But now you do have David Robertson filling it for now. Ottavino's setup guy. Brooks Raley, I think, was an underrated move this past offseason. I still think this bullpen is okay, but I feel like they're going to need to add something for this bullpen. As for the starting pitching, this is the best part of the team, in my opinion. Added Justin Verlander and Kadai Senga in the offseason. Scherzer, Verlander, that's an awesome 1-2 punch. Kadai Senga still a bit of a wild card, but this guy's got great stuff. Love Carrasco and Peterson at the back end of it. Jose Quintana was another addition. He's going to miss some time. Had a rib injury, had to get surgery, but he'll be back sometime halfway through the season. Love the depth of the starting pitching. I feel like the Mets didn't have this kind of depth last year. You had Scherzer and DeGrom, good 1-2 punch, but the depth was a bit of a question mark with this Mets team, and they've added it. I like the lineup. I still think they're a bat short. Bullpen, I still think is an arm short, but I think they make those moves in the season before the trade deadline, and I think they find a way to win this division. So here's a recap on which teams I think make the playoffs. In the American League, the number 1 seed, I have the Houston Astros. The number 2 seed, the Toronto Blue Jays. The number 3 seed, the Chicago White Sox. The number 4 seed, the New York Yankees. The number 5 seed, the Seattle Mariners. And the number 6 seed, the Boston Red Sox. And in the National League, the number 1 seed, I have the LA Dodgers. The number 2 seed, the New York Mets. The number 3 seed, the St. Louis Cardinals. The number 4 seed, the Atlanta Braves. The number 5 seed, the San Diego Padres. And the number 6 seed, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now let's shift over to the awards. Let's go to the comeback players of the year. In the American League, I have Chris Sale, who has just had a miserable time in the last few years due to multiple injuries, but I think this year he's able to finally put it all together and return to being one of the better starting pitchers in the game, helping the Red Sox get back to the playoffs. In the National League, I have Cody Bellinger. He's hit rock bottom in the last couple of years, but I think a lot of it had to do with injuries, which affected his mechanics and timing at the plate. Getting out of LA and going to Chicago will help him have a fresh start, and he'll get back to playing some solid baseball. For managers of the year, in the American League, I have Pedro Grifol. The White Sox really took a step back last year with Tony La Russa at the helm, but this year with Pedro Grifol getting this team back on track and winning the AL Central will help him win manager of the year. Over in the National League, I have Torey Lovullo, the manager of my surprise team for this year, the Arizona Diamondbacks. He'll win the award for the second time for leading this team on a surprising run to the playoffs. Now let's talk the rookies of the year. In the American League, I have Anthony Volpe. A lot of Yankee fans call him their next Derek Jeter. Volpe is a great young player who can produce with the bat, but also plays great defense and brings some speed on the base paths. I believe he will be the Yankees shortstop. Stepping into this role will have a lot of pressure, but I believe he'll be able to handle it and become a fan favorite in the Bronx. Over in the National League, I have James Outman, who showed promise last year in a small sample size with the Dodgers, hitting a homer and 2 doubles in 4 games. He's shown an all-around ability in the minor leagues, and I think he'll eventually be the answer for center field with the Dodgers. Now let's talk the Cy Youngs. In the American League, I have Kevin Gausman. Last year, he was 3rd in the major leagues with a 2.65 xFIP despite having an ERA of 3.35. With some better outfield defense this season with Kiermaier and Varsho, I believe that will help translate to a lower ERA, which combined with a good amount of innings pitched, strikeouts, and a low amount of walks will help lead to a Cy Young season. In the National League, I have Aaron Nola. Last year, he led the majors in the second half with an xFIP of 2.51 and was second with a FIP of 2.22. He was also 4th overall in strikeouts for the entire year. I think that'll carry over to 2023, and he'll put together a fine season. And last but not least, let's talk the MVPs. In the American League, I have Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what else is there to say? He's the modern day Babe Ruth. If Aaron Judge hadn't gone off with a historic season last year, Ohtani would have won the award hands down. In my eyes, I find it hard to see Judge doing that again, leaving the gates wide open for Ohtani to claim his 2nd MVP. In the National League, I have Juan Soto. Last year wasn't his usual Juan Soto season, but now that he's settled in with his new team in a deep lineup, I think he just goes off this year, winning his first MVP. Now let's move on to the playoffs, starting in the wild card round in the American League. In the first matchup, I have the AL Central champion White Sox taking on the Red Sox. While I do think the Red Sox will get a win in this series, I think the White Sox will have just a bit more starting pitching, and with a good bullpen and lineup, they will be able to get by the Red Sox in 3 games. In the other matchup, I have the Yankees and the Mariners. The Mariners with Luis Castillo and their young arms Logan Gilbert and George Kirby will bring a good fight to the Yankees, but I think the veteran combo of Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon will be enough to hold off Seattle. The Yankees win this series in 3 games. Over in the National League, I have the Central champion Cardinals taking on the surprising Diamondbacks. While the Diamondbacks will show a good fight, the Cardinals lineup with the likes of Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, and Wilson Contreras will be too much for the Diamondbacks pitching, while the Cardinals pitching will be able to handle the Diamondbacks' young lineup. I have the Cardinals winning this in 2 games. In the other wild card series, we have a good matchup between the Braves and the Padres. While the Padres do have an excellent lineup and some solid pitching, I think the Braves' deeper bullpen helps lock down some close games, and they find a way to advance in 3 games. Moving on to the division rounds, shifting back over to the American League, I have the AL East champion Blue Jays taking on the Central champion White Sox. While I do think the White Sox have good starting pitching, their lack of depth after using both Lance Lynn and Dylan Cease in the wild card round will come back to bite them. An extremely good Blue Jays lineup will be able to take it to the White Sox starters early on, and in a short series, that will prove to be the difference. I have the Blue Jays advancing to the ALCS in 4 games. And on the other side of the American League division round, I have a playoff rematch between the Yankees and the Astros. Like the White Sox, the Yankees will not have the luxury of having Cole or Rodon early on, giving the experienced Astros an edge. With the Yankees having to rely on middle-of-the-rotation guys like Luis Severino and Nestor Cortez, who are showing some injury issues as of right now, the Astros should be able to take an early lead in this series. The Yankees will be able to win 1 or 2 games, but in the end, I think the Astros will once again have the Yankees number and beat the Yankees in an exciting 5-game series. They advance to the ALCS to face the Blue Jays. Moving over to the National League, I have the Central champion Cardinals taking on the East champion New York Mets. The lineup of the Cardinals is very deep, but I think the Mets will have enough pitching with Scherzer and Verlander to work their way through that tough lineup, and the Mets offense will be able to put up runs against the Cardinals' weaker starting pitching. I have the Mets winning this round in 4 games. And last but not least, we have a rivalry renewed between the Braves and the Dodgers. The Dodgers are an organization that have both a very good major major league team and farm system. But I think in the end, the Braves will have just enough starting pitching and a good enough lineup to get by the Dodgers in 5 games. Moving on to the championship rounds. In the ALCS, I have the defending champion Astros taking on the upstart Blue Jays. Both teams are extremely talented with solid starting pitching and good lineups. While the Blue Jays and Astros match up very evenly in terms of offense and starting pitching, I think the difference will come down to the bullpens, and with their bullpen possessing more quality power arms at the back end, the Astros will be able to advance past the Blue Jays in an incredible 7-game series. And in the National League Championship Series, I have an awesome matchup between the division rival New York Mets and Atlanta Braves. Both teams are evenly matched, with both having good lineups and good pitching. However, I think the difference will be Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. With having those two guys in games 1 and 2, I think the Mets will have an edge in this series. And with the depth of their rotation, which includes Kadai Senga, Carlos Carrasco, and Jose Quintana, the Mets will find a way to get past the Braves in 7 games. And in the World Series, I have the Astros and the Mets. I've talked at length about these two teams. Both offenses match up very well, and both teams have very good pitching. However, the difference in this series will be the depth of the starting pitching. The Astros have a solid and experienced 3 of Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, and Luis Garcia. But for the Mets, not only do they have a great 1-2 punch of Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, but they have the depth of Senga, Carrasco, and Quintana. In the end, the Mets will raise their first World Series trophy for the first time since 1986. So those are my predictions. Tell me how terrible you think they are down below in the comments. On the way out, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button, hit the bell button. But that's all I have for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.